Hello and welcome to the library. I'm Ms. Martin, the assistant librarian, and this is the library orientation tour for new graduate students in the business department. If you are not a newly admitted graduate student or your major is not business, then you are in the wrong place. Now let's get started. I'm sure you understand that as graduate students, you will be required to do a tremendous amount of research. Here at the library, we try to make this process as easy as possible for you. The library is open for extensive hours, from 7 a.m. until midnight 7 days a week, so that you'll have access to library research facilities almost any time that you want. During final exam week, the library is open 24 hours a day, and there are library staff members available to help you whenever the library is open. During this tour, we will be concentrating on two areas of the library. The first area is the computerized search facilities, which are located on the second floor of the library. On the computer systems located in this area, you can conduct computer searches for books as well as articles in magazines, newspapers, and journals. On the floor above the computer area are reference materials devoted specifically to business. In this area, you can find references for books and periodicals related to business and annual reports on major corporations. Now that we have completed this little introduction, we're ready to start the tour. Please follow me.
A world like no other. Perhaps this is the best way to describe the world of the rainforest. No rainforest is exactly the same, yet most rainforests are now distributed in the small land area 22.5 degrees north and 22.5 degrees south of the equator, between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer. You can find tropical rainforests in South America and Indonesia. Other rainforests flourish further from the equator, in Thailand and Sri Lanka. Despite occupying a relatively small area, rainforests have a colossal role to play in maintaining the world as we know it. Tropical rainforests are home to a rich, colorful variety of medicinal plants, food, birds, and animals. Can you believe that a single bush in the Amazon may have more species of ants than the whole of Britain? 480 varieties of trees may be found in just 1 hectare of rainforest. These forests sustain around 50% of all the species on Earth and offer a way of life to many people living in and around the forest. Rainforests are the lungs of the planet, storing vast quantities of carbon dioxide and producing a significant amount of the world's oxygen. Rainforests have their own perfect system for ensuring their own survival. The tall trees make a canopy of branches and leaves which protect themselves, smaller plants, and the forest animals from heavy rain, intense dry heat from the sun, and strong winds. Amazingly, the trees grow in such a way that their leaves and branches, although close together, never actually touch those of another tree. Scientists think this is a deliberate tactic to prevent the spread of any tree diseases and make life more difficult for leaf-eating insects like caterpillars. To survive in the forest, animals must climb, jump, fly, or glide across the gaps. The ground floor of the forest is not all tangled leaves and bushes, like in films, but is actually fairly clear. It is where leaves decompose into food for the trees and other forest life. Worryingly, rainforests around the world are disappearing at an alarming rate, thanks to deforestation, river pollution, and soil erosion, as land is being claimed for agriculture and trees are felled for wood. A few thousand years ago, tropical rainforests covered as much as 12% of the land surface on Earth, but today this has fallen to less than 5.3%. We can only hope that the world governments work together with environmentalists and businesses to use their environmental knowledge and power to preserve the rainforests, awe-inspiring, beautiful, and vital for our existence.
When Scotsman Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone in 1876, it was a revolution in communication. For the first time, people could talk to each other over great distances almost as clearly as if they were in the same room. Nowadays, though, we increasingly use Bell's invention for taking photographs, accessing the internet, or watching video clips, rather than talking. Over the last 2 decades, a new means of spoken communication has emerged: the mobile phone. The modern mobile phone is a more complex version of the two-way radio. Traditional two-way radio was a very limited means of communication. As soon as the users moved out of range of each other's broadcast area, the signal was lost. In the 1940s, researchers began experimenting with the idea of using a number of radio masts located around the countryside to pick up signals from two-way radios. A caller would always be within range of one of the masts. When he moved too far away from one mast, the next mast would pick up the signal. Scientists referred to each mast's reception area as being a separate cell. This is why in many countries mobile phones are called cell phones. However, 1940s technology was still quite primitive, and the telephones were enormous boxes which had to be transported by car. The first real mobile telephone call was made in 1973 by Dr. Martin Cooper, the scientist who invented the modern mobile handset. As soon as his invention was complete, he tested it by calling a rival scientist to announce his success. Within a decade, mobile phones became available to the public. The streets of modern cities began to feature sharp-suited characters shouting into giant plastic bricks. In Britain, the mobile phone quickly became synonymous with the yuppie, the new breed of young urban professionals who carried the expensive handsets as status symbols. Around this time, many of us swore that we would never, ever own a mobile phone. But in the mid-90s, something happened. Cheaper handsets and cheaper calling rates meant that almost overnight it seemed that everyone had a mobile phone. And the giant plastic bricks of the 80s had evolved into smooth little objects that fitted nicely into pockets and bags. In every pub and restaurant, you could hear the bleep and buzz of mobiles ringing and registering messages, occasionally breaking out into primitive versions of the latest pop songs. Cities suddenly had a new postmodern bird song. Traditional rules of grammar and spelling are much less important when you're sitting on the bus, hurriedly typing, "Will be 15 min late. See you at the bar. Sorry, ! Smiley face." Mobile phones, once the preserve of the high-powered business person and the yuppie, are now a vital part of daily life for an enormous amount of people. From school children to pensioners, every section of society has found that it's easier to stay in touch when you've got a mobile. Over the last few years, mobiles have become more and more advanced. Microcomputers with broadband internet access, which will allow us to watch TV, download internet files at high speed, and send instant video clips to friends. Alexander Graham Bell would be amazed if he could see how far the science of telephony has progressed in less than 150 years. If he were around today, he might say, "That's great, but I'm busy right now. We'll call you tonight."